So our next Scoia'tael archetype is generally all about playing cards face down, though the actual specifics on playing cards face down is still a bit of a mystery to us. We don't know how it sort of gets initiated, but I think it is possible to see it. It's very much like Hearthstone, in that when you place a card face down, you place it either disloyally or loyally, depending on what the card effect is, and the opponent gets to see it. But we've got a range of cards which are able to be placed face down, so the opponent has to guess and work around it and try and fall into the trap, but in reasonably safe ways. So in Hearthstone, it was always a deal of attacking the opponent's face with a weak card to activate something which will kill that card, rather than doing it with your strong one. It's kind of the same way here. You've got to fall into a trap, but you've got to do it in a safe environment, in a nice, easy, safe way. Which is always painful, you know, especially if it's something as strong as we saw earlier with Ida Emin, where she cancels the special card effect. There are ways, if you've got multiple Biting Frost, for example, it won't be a big deal, but sometimes it's going to be very hard to fall into this particular effect. And we have no idea if a face down card can be like removed from the board by removing its strength, or is its strength known to you beforehand? If it is, then it's probably easy to guess that card, so that's probably unlikely. So there's quite a few questions we've still got about playing cards face down. We need to wait and see some footage. However, we can still go through the particular cards and see what kind of effects they've got and what kind of things you'll have to avoid if you play against one. So the Elven War Dancer really ties this all together. A 2-strength bronze card for Scoia'tael has the agile ability again. A lot of elves seem to have the agile ability, so again, this is a good archetype for playing however you want. Whenever a unit is played face down, add 4 strength to this unit, so it's going to go up pretty quickly. It's not as quickly as maybe special cards, because if your opponent is not a Scoia'tael player, he probably doesn't have any face down cards. But if he does, and he's playing them as well, then your Elven War Dancer is going to get buffed, because it's if anyone plays a face down unit. So he's going to go to 6, to 10, to 14 really, really quickly, which is quite a lot if you think about it. So going to be a very integral card for this face down shenanigans. So next we've got the Dolbluff Arna Trapper. Now unfortunately they seem to have taken the artwork away, which is really annoying because now I can't see the strength. I might have to look at one of my older videos where it was actually visible, and I'll put it on the side if I manage to see it. But really its ability is what makes this card. The bronze card for Scoia'tael can be placed loyally or disloyally. Usually this card's ability you want to place disloyal. Play face down. Reveal when a non-gold unit appears on the row, and remove 5 strength from all non-gold units on the row. But this card is an amazingly powerful card. I got the feeling this is definitely going to get nerfed before closed beta, because obviously you need to anticipate what row they're going to be placing cards on. It needs to be a non-gold one, but still 5 strength from all non-golds, that's huge. You know, that could easily rack up to 20-25 strength, and this is a bronze card. I'll have you know, it was bronze when the artwork was there anyway. So this is a huge card, and although the opponent could play around it and never place anything on the melee row, a lot easier for some decks rather than others. I mean, Scoia'tael can really just agile their way around cards like these. However, any other deck they can't change particular cards. You know, if you're Skellige, most of your cards have a set lane to play in. And you can also, even if they don't play anything else into this, that your opponent really doesn't fall for it, you can force it to happen. You play things like Yavin, for example. So you're playing a spy disloyally on any row, and you play it on the row that the Dolbluff Arna Trapper is on, and it will remove 5 strength from everything on that row. And Yavin will remove 2 strength from everything on that row that is non-gold anyway. So suddenly you've just done a combo where 7 strength from every non-gold unit on the row, which is pretty much death for a lot of things. You know, 8 strength is generally where you're going to get unless they've been buffed. So it's just way too crazy, this card. I mean, way too crazy. I think the strength was something like 2. Hopefully I've got an image to show you on that. That is a stupidly crazy card. Right, so we've got Ida Emin, which I already spoke about. Play face down and it cancels a special card from being played. Really powerful. And again, if you play it disloyally, then they don't know whether it's the Dolbluff Arna Trapper, and so you could, like, you know, bait them a little bit. So what? I want premium cat. Premium pussy. I'm sorry, I need to do it. Some premium pussy, please. So next we've got Toraviel, which is a 6 strength silver card with the agile ability once more. Now it says loyal, disloyal, so you can play it on either, but its ability is very, very much loyal. Play face down. Reveal when your opponent passes and add 2 strength to all non-gold units on the row. So I think this card is ridiculous. It is absolutely crazy, providing it works the way I'm thinking it works. So there's a bad way to play this and a good way to play this. So the bad way would be that if you've got really high strength, you play this down and then you pass and your opponent just passes, then this card giving extra strength is not really going to work. However, if you've got a marginal lead, okay, or just like a slight decrease in lead, you play this card down, so you're just below, then you pass, and then the opponent passes because he's already in the lead, but only by a slight amount. And then if this flips over and gives +2 to things, suddenly you're in the lead and your opponent can't do anything about it, which is really weird. I'm not sure if it would work that way, but it sounds like it would. And very much the opposite to that, if you have a nice lead, you place this card down and you pass, and if your opponent thinks, I think I can beat that strength, places a card down, and he does in fact beat the strength. But maybe he only beats it by 2 or 3 strength, which is usually the case because he gets to calculate a bit more. And then he passes because he's winning. This card flips over and gives stuff on your row +2 strength, and then he's no longer winning anymore. He's lost. Okay, so it kind of made him use a card to think he'd won, but then suddenly he hasn't won. And just the fact that he thinks he's won and he suddenly hasn't won and he can't do anything about it is crazy. And so the final play face down card is Karen here. 2 strength silver card, agile once more, loyal and disloyal, and you may want to decide how you want to do it. Play face down, reveal at the end of the round, and return this card to your hand if you lost. Shitty card. And I agree. Shitty card, right? It's a silver card, my god. Okay, absolutely rubbish. Now, the only real benefit to this card that I'm seeing is because its strength is so low, and it only comes to your hand if you lost. It's like a mini Siri Blink, but for silver status, it's not really that good. 2 strength is worthless, really, because it will lose all buffs and debuffs unless it changes by original strength. But the real only effectiveness of this card is maybe you could pretend it's one of the other ones that we saw. You know, you could pretend it's another face down card from one of the other variants, which could maybe control the way your opponent plays. He wouldn't play a certain special card for fear that it might get cancelled. He might not play anything on a particular row for fear that it might -5 off everything on that row. So this card's effect is really just to pretend to be other cards, which is, I mean, it's nice, but really, why don't you just play one of the other cards, you know? For silver, it's way too bad, I think, to be honest. It's another one of those things that is really only useful. If it had like 10 strength, let's just say, for example, it would really, again, only be useful to do that weird thing that we saw earlier with Torreveal, where at the end of the round it flips and then suddenly you win. That's the only effect. Because if it flips and you haven't won, then what's the fucking point of getting it back, you know? Apart from, you get card advantage, I suppose. I guess there's that for it. I do change my mind there, actually. I'm going to take that last bit back. You do get card advantage from him. We've seen that you can have about 4 decoys in your deck anyway, and Yavin and stuff like that. So, and you also get to play another face down card, which could buff things later, but I don't know. I think his strength is just too low for anybody to deal with, for anyone to take. A little bit higher and maybe it'll be worth it, in my opinion. The next we've got the Dolblafana Archer, 2 strength bronze card with the agile ability once again. Choose a non-gold unit on the opponent's side of the battlefield and remove 5 strength from it. So 5 strength is reasonably good. That will destroy a reasonable amount of bronze cards, a couple of silver cards here and there as well. And so this is going to be quite good for targeting specific things like Odrin. He's 5 strength and buffs a lot of things, so you really want to kind of get rid of him as quickly as possible. And she'll do the job very nicely while not wasting a massively strong card like, say, Radovid or something of equal measure. 5 strength, again, is quite a lot. This card is worth 7 because it's 2 plus the 5 it negates. Now, you are more likely to get negative optimal play from this. What I mean by that is you're going to get the 2 strength, but sometimes you might destroy something which only had 3 strength. You might destroy something that only had 4, so you're weakening yourself by targeting things that you really need to get rid of, but have less strength. So a raw 7 would be better in that way, but there's not many cards yet that we've seen that have permanent abilities which keep going during the match. Obviously, any resilient cards like the Mahakam Defenders, if you're fighting against them, you could remove one of those from the board straight away. But again, they're only 3 strength, so you are wasting 2 strength doing that particular play. You've got things like, Was it Craven revived? You want to try and get rid of him as fast as possible because he will buff people that have played into him. So there's some really nice uses for this lady. She's relatively cheap. She's really just going to be all about, you put a couple of them in there and they're just like snipers really. Get rid of some really troublesome things. You don't want to use it for the main bulk of their army for the most part. You can get rid of things like Reaver Hunter as well, which are slow musters. You get rid of the first one, you've cut the head off the dragon, so to speak, and it won't muster the rest, which is nice. We've got the Blue Mountain Commando, 4 strength bronze card with the agile ability again. Choose a bronze unit on your side of the battlefield and play it again. So there's a lot of choice there, really. I mean, the Dolblofana Archer will give you another 5 strength, and that's really good, because the 2 strength you're getting there is not particularly great, and being able to snipe something else means that you don't really have to take 3 of these in your particular deck, because you could take some more of these and just duplicate them up, and you get 4 strength there, which is really nice. So I really like that card a lot. It's like a mini version of Aethne, but it only does bronze cards, which is there's some really good bronze cards that you could use this for. We've got Saskia, 4 strength golden card, and it goes on the melee row. Now we have been told that there are going to be other Saskia cards. They definitely have a human form of Saskia, which does something different, so don't worry about that. Remove 1 strength from all non-gold units on the opponent's side of the battlefield. Add 2 strength to all your non-gold units on your side of the battlefield. So we're starting to see a very wounding heavy cards coming in. We've got the Dolblofana Archer, Saskia now. She can scale quite easily depending on how much people have committed to this particular round, which means she gets more and more value, which is nice. Morin, 4 strength silver card, agile once again. Choose 2 non-gold units on the opponent's side of the battlefield and remove 3 strength from both of them. So effectively she's worth 10 strength, which is okay. That's normal for a silver card, I think. So again, just you can snipe things. 3 strength is okay-ish. It might help for young berserkers, and there's a couple of other 3 strength things like Northern Realms, Trebuchet. Some of those could be 3 strength. So she has uses, but not necessarily an amazing card. Just there if you want it. It would work well with Brugha. You could pick her back up using Aethne to get this effect again. You've got the Vreehead Officer, a 4 strength bronze card with the agile ability. Add 2 strength to the weakest non-gold unit on your side of the battlefield. Remove 2 strength from the weakest non-gold unit on the opponent's side of the battlefield. That would work really well with Weathers, or generally you're hoping the weakest non-gold unit on the opponent's side of the battlefield is about 2 strength, so you can destroy it. But usually the weakest non-gold units don't really have an effect after they've been played. I can't think of much. Even the poor infantry are 3 strength now, but maybe you could use it with weather effects to really good effect there. And stop them, destroy a unit before they were able to clear weather, for example. You've got Brayan, which is 5 strength silver card, agile. Discard a random bronze card from your hand to your graveyard and draw a random silver. So Brugha can pull out any silver you want, so I think silvers for Scoia'tael are going to be very, very competitive. Now, you want to make sure that you don't pull out all your silver before you play Brugha. I think with Brugha, she's not really that interesting, but with any of the other leader cards, I think she becomes a little bit more interesting. It is a random bronze, so obviously play the bronzes that you care about, and then whittle it down so the RNG is not so bad. And 5 strength, you'd have to know what silver cards you've got left in your deck to see just how much worse she is. Silver cards are very valuable in Scoia'tael, in my opinion. We've got Zoltan, 5 strength now. He's been decreased quite a bit there, and he's a golden card. It goes on the melee row. Keep this unit on the battlefield at the end of each round. So he does the same thing, but it's just been reduced to 5. So there's not too many things that can destroy him. Only gold cards can wound him unless you strip him of his gold status, which I don't think Scoia'tael can do. So you'd have to look to things like Radovid, might take care of him, stuff like that. So be careful about playing him when the opponent has Radovid and try and bait that out first, if possible. There are a couple of other golden cards which could possibly wound and kill this guy. Let's look at one now. So for example, you've got cards like this. If your opponent did play Zoltan, which is 5 strength now, 5 strength is a big deal. Because he's more susceptible to things like him, which is a 6 strength golden card with the agile ability. Use any unit on the opponent's side of the battlefield and remove 6 strength from it. And to be honest, targeting something like Zoltan would just, be the best kind of choice you could make, to be honest, because then you completely stump his whole resilience. And there's a couple of other cards like him which could do the same. Vernon Roach, I think, can do 5 strength. So, there's a few cards which could get rid of Zoltan pretty early on now, so he's not as great as he used to be. So next we've got the Three-Head Brigade, which is a 7 strength bronze card with the agile ability and has no ability whatsoever. So 7 strength is nice because I think Scoia'tael generally have a lower strength base than most other characters. Monsters seem to have a little bit higher, but a lot of the cards we've been seeing are 4, 5 strength with abilities that wound, for example. So this will protect a lot of cards from things like Scorch, which probably won't be as prevalent nowadays, but still serves the purpose. But then you've got the Dolbluff Arna Marksman, which is 8 strength bronze card, agile, no ability. So what is the benefit of taking the Brigade over the Marksman? I don't really have one. Now, there may be some Three-Head Brigade synergies popping up in the future. There doesn't seem to be any in this particular closed beta, so this is a common card, however, and this is a rare card. So although you can have 3 of each, I guess, that one does protect that, and if you want, both of them, then if you just want really high strength cards, not much faffing around with all this wounding business, then obviously take that, and that one will protect that. So there is a place for both of these cards. It's not necessarily, that one is worse, but if you want both, if you take both, then they both serve a purpose, which is to protect other things while also, giving you high strength values. Milva, which is an 8 strength golden card for Squirtle, goes on the siege row. She works very much the same as she used to, which is really nice. They've just cleared up a bit of the description. Return the strongest non-gold unit to each side of the battlefield to its owner's hand. Ties are resolved randomly, and this includes buffed. So if you've got a 8 strength card and a 2 strength card which has been buffed to 8, then it's going to randomly choose one for you. But remember that the buffed one, if that comes back, it loses its buff. So, I really like this card. I think she's amazingly good for your final turn play, because it kind of scorches the opponent's card, because if they pass on the final round, they can't play her again. You could use it for card advantage. So by that I mean, if the opponent plays a golden card, like say Zoltan, and then you play a card yourself, you could use her next turn and pull that non-gold back up, and the opponent doesn't get anything because he's only got golden cards. So you can use her in a multitude of ways. As a Scorch on the very final round, final turn. You could use her as card advantage. You could use her to replay certain abilities. So she's just a really good card. I'd always take her in my opinion, but she's not always going to be in every deck, but I really like her a lot. And 8 strength is really, really nice. We've got Sheldon Skaggs. Again, he's a no ability kind of guy. 10 strength silver with the melee. So if you're going for the large strengths, which I don't think many people will do, Sheldon Skaggs is just going to be great. He's a 10 strength, so he'll protect all the marksmen and the brigades and stuff like that. You might be able to mix large strength cards in with things like the special card archetype that we saw, all about drawing special cards, because these will help you get your strength on the board, because a lot of those cards didn't go too high, apart from maybe the Walker support. But yeah, he will protect against things quite a lot early on, which is nice. And you can always put him out with things like Bruverhoog. And I think he counts as a dwarf, so he will work in certain dwarfy decks, which we'll get onto after this particular card. So our next archetype for Scoia'tael is one we've already saw, which is a dwarven kind of deck. And the first card that kind of brings this all together a little bit is the Barclay Elves. So 5 strength silver card that goes on the siege row. Add 1 strength to all of your non-gold dwarves wherever they are. So hand, deck or graveyard, really, really nice. Or the battlefield actually. So if you can replay this card with things like Eighth Knee or by decoying it, then it's going to be really, really effective. Things like Milva as well, you could pick this card back up and replay it, so your dwarves start getting buffed, and since you build a very dwarven deck, that means all your cards are going to get a nice buff, which is going to be really, really good. I wouldn't be surprised if they change this to original strength down the line, because they are going to be experimenting with that, and it makes more sense that original strength will increase so that you can pick cards back up and they don't lose the particular buff. 1 strength isn't too much. I mean, it's really... you're going to have to play him and make sure you've got a very nice dwarven deck to go with. in order for it to be effective. And the more times you use it, I think the better value you get out of this card, in my opinion. The second particular card, which really ties the Dwarven deck all together, is this one, the Dwarven Mercenary. Add 2 strength to this unit for each Dwarf unit already on your side of the battlefield. So this card can really easily get up to maybe 10, 8, 10, 12, something like that, which is really, really strong. Now, you can't pick it back up, otherwise you're going to lose its buff because it's just a, normal buff. But it's really going to be effective to be one of the later dwarves that you play. You can have 3 of these, so there's a lot of good combo ability with the Dwarven Mercenary and your whole Dwarven deck, to be honest. Obviously, it could start at 3 and 4 if you use Scoia'tael first, which allows it to get buffed. The next, we've got the staple Dwarven card, the Mahakam Defender. 3 strength bronze, goes on the melee row. Keep this unit on the battlefield at the end of each round, so it's a resilient which carries on for the entire game. 3 strength is really, really low, in my opinion. It's so low, but maybe it's because they were so difficult to deal with usually. I think this is still kind of rubbish enough to be in the middle of things. You've got to be careful of Epidemic. I don't know how many low strength cards you're going to have a Scoia'tael. Not too many, I would think. Maybe the Hawker Healers would defend from behind. But yeah, you don't want to buff them up too high because then they're easily removable. But I think at 3 strength, they're going to be easily removable anyway. There's quite a few things which can wound for 3 strength off the bat. A lot of Skellige cards like Savage Bear, when this guy comes onto the battlefield, he'll get 1 strength removed from him. I think the Savage Bear will be a later play, where these are pretty much immediate plays for the most part. So they might be safe from that. But there's a lot of cards which can do 3 wounding. Lacerate will take them all down to 1, and they're going to stay on the board so they don't lose the debuff. So these guys are going to be really hard to play and play well. You're going to have to really buff them up, but not too high that they become easily scorchable. So I think these guys are actually quite hard to play now, in my opinion. We've got the Mahakam Defender. 3 strength bronze card, melee row again. Choose 1 non-gold unit on your side of the battlefield and add 4 strength to it. So I think that's probably where Mahakam Defender and Mahakam Guard really just go together so well. Get these guys up to 7 strength. Don't forget, all of these cards get boosted by Scoia'tael, so these could easily be 4 or 5 if you replay him, which makes them a lot more reasonable in my opinion. But both of these cards are melee orientated, so be careful about a Lacerate or a Stammelford's Tremor, which will just take everything down so easily. We've got the Dwarven Skirmisher, 4 strength bronze, goes on the siege row. Choose a non-gold unit on the opponent's side of the battlefield and remove 3 strength from it. See, if you're playing against a Scoia'tael as well and he places Mahakam Defender, you place this guy and you've destroyed it easily. If the unit is not destroyed, add 2 strength to this unit. So you may not want to destroy the Mahakam Defender, but if he's buffed, say up to 5 or 6, using Barclay, then yeah, he's good, because then he'll reduce those to 1, just so negligible. You don't even have to destroy them anymore. 1 strength isn't too big of a deal, unless it's like the final round and no one's got any cards, then the opponent wins by like 1 strength. But you gain 2 strength on this, so he's going to be pretty good as well. Scoia'tael will buff him up a lot, and he counts towards the Dwarven Mercenary. All of these count towards the Dwarven Mercenary, Sheldon Skaggs included, so you can start to see this Dwarven deck coming along really, really easily. So my final Dwarven card is Yarpen Zigrin, 7 strength, silver card that goes on the siege row. Keep this unit on the battlefield at the end of this round. So he only stays on the battlefield for 1 extra round, unlike the Mahakam Defender or Zoltan, which stays on the entire game, basically, unless removed. But 7 strength is nice, so I think that's fair, just 1 extra particular round. He can go up to 8 or 9, maybe, with Scoia'taels. He is a dwarf, so he will help the Dwarven Mercenary go up by 2 strength himself. So a really, really decent card in my opinion. Silver, so you could pull him out with Bruverhoog. But you could also manipulate his ability a little bit by using things like Aethne, which could pick him up and then put him back down so he stays on for the 3rd round. Might be a bit of a waste because you don't actually see anything this particular round in terms of strength, but it is an option. If you pick him back up and place him back down with Decoy or something, then his ability get reapplied and he'll stay on for the next round as well, so pretty decent there. So our final few cards utilise the Commando Neophyte kind of archetype. So we've got the 3-head Vanguard, which might be 4 strength. This is an old art picture for some reason. Create and play 2 Commando Neophytes. We know they are 2 strength, so this card is worth 8, which is about usual for bronze cards. The Commando Neophytes are just 2 strength units, which adds more bodies to the board, which is really quite nice if you're going for the Hawker Healer style, buffing the row kind of session, really. So we've got the Three-Head Dragoons, which are 5 strength bronze card with agile ability. Whenever the strength of this unit changes, create a Commando Neophyte. So you could buff it, or the enemy could debuff it, and it will create Commando Neophytes, which are 2 strength. So a lot of really good plays there. Hawker Healers would buff this and create extra bodies on the board, ready for more Hawker Healers. The issue is that Commando Neophytes being 2 strength are easily susceptible to things like Stammelford's Tremors, Lacerates, things like that, which would easily kill all of them from the board unless you've buffed them up already. We've got cards like Elias, which is a 3 strength silver card with agile. Whenever a Commando Neophyte appears on your side of the battlefield, add 2 strength to this unit. So, hopefully he's one of the first ones you played. He is quite weak. The opponent might decide to quickly try and remove him because 3 strength is quite low. There are things, like I've mentioned, which can remove 3 strength with 1 card. I keep going back to Skellige and their Brovkar Hunters, which just wound for 3 strength. And he's a great target because then you don't have to deal with all this Commando Neophyte business. So, got to be very careful because it's not so much about scorching an epidemic as it used to be. It's more about wounding, and you can't really hide cards as well with wounding anymore. So you've got to be very careful when you play cards like this, even though he's definitely a card that you want to play early on. And finally, we've got Aelrian, which is a 3 strength silver card with the agile ability. Destroy all Commando Neophyte units on your side of the battlefield. Remove 1 strength from all non-gold units on the opponent's side of the battlefield. So the Commando Neophyte is 2 strength, and when destroyed, it will remove 1 strength from all non-gold units on the opponents. So the more units they've got, the more dividends you get back for the Commando Neophyte. You are weakening your own side of the board, so it's you can basically create Commando Neophytes which just are intended to be buffed loads by Hawkers and stuff, or you could take her and decide to destroy all your Commando Neophytes. If they're in weather effects, then obviously that's good because then it's a better deal, but you could potentially deal a lot of damage to the opponent's non-gold units with this card alone, because they create 2, so if you've got 3 of them, that's 6 on the board. These guys could create 6 by themselves, so you could potentially have 12, and that's 12 damage you're doing by using this to all of the opponent's non-gold units. So that's pretty much death for all of their non-gold units in that respect. So she is such a powerful card, but again, if you're playing this card and you're playing the Three-Head and the Dragoons and this, I'm worried about how much strength you're actually going to be accumulating on yourself. It might be all about wounding your opponent. We did see quite a few Scoia'tael wounding cards anyway, so there might be a very Commando Neophyte / wounding archetype going on. But yeah, that's it for the Scoia'tael cards. A lot of them there. A lot of interesting ones. Easily able to dominate either the special card area, or you've got a reasonable amount of card advantage with your deck ability anyway. Commando Neophyte seems like it's going to be difficult with things like Stammelford's Tremors being bronze, if they're staying to bronze. But thanks for watching, everyone. Take care. I'm going to do the monsters next, and then I can finally get on to doing some decks on for the closed beta, seeing what kind of things would be best played. Obviously, I want to do a deck for new players because we won't have access to all of these cards at the very beginning because they're going to be testing out the card pack opening system. So you won't have access to all the cards, I don't imagine. So it would be nice to do a beginner's style deck using common and rares that you're more likely to have. But thanks for watching, guys. Monsters are coming up next. And take care of yourself, guys.